everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada, and you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. Now, today I wanted to show you how I made the fancy fold that I shared as part of the Creativity Abounds blog hop. So I'm calling this an accordion fold window card. I'm not sure if there's an official name. I've seen it around posted by other demonstrators and other people. And I finally decided I was going to make it. Now I got a card from Barbara. I don't know her last name. It starts with an F. I got it at Onstage, and she is Sun Prince. And I did do a little bit of modifications to her measurements because they just, I was trying to use half of half of a sheet of cardstock. Or at least for the base, I cut half sheet and then I did some trimming. So I did modify the measurements that she used. So I hope that you'll enjoy this card. I really love this fold. It's a little bit fancy, a little bit fussy, but hopefully you'll enjoy it too. Now, as part of the blog hop, which the link is underneath this video, you can find a template for this, for the card base and the scoring, as well as the written instructions for the cards. So hopefully you'll follow along. If you have any questions as you're watching the video or as you're checking out my blog and the instructions, just leave a comment on either place and I will answer you. So if you struggle with this at all, as I said, there's a bit of cutting and a bit of scoring, but hopefully it'll all make sense. All right, let me switch over to my desktop and we'll get started. So this is the card, and this is why I called it kind of an accordion fold window. I'm sure there's another name for it, but it's just kind of fun. It is made up of kind of three, a sticky note in the back of it, three main pieces. Well, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 pieces, but you've got the card base. Then you've got this piece on either side, this panel on either side, and then a hinge on either side. So there's a little bit of cutting, a little bit of scoring, but I've used the Simply Citrus bundle, which is my absolute favorite bundle. Well, one of my absolute favorite bundles from the new mini catalog that is coming out. This is coming off a little bit. Coming out for January. So the Simply Citrus bundle is a hybrid embossing folder. So you get the dies that and the embossing folder that cut and emboss, and then as well as some great sentiments. And the theme for our blog hop for Creativity Abounds, we do a blog hop every month, is birthday. And then we also do a tutorial. So if you purchase from me, you will get this tutorial for free, or you can purchase the tutorial. There's a link on my blog, and it's all sorts of birthday themed projects. Okay, so that's the card. Let's bring in the supplies. So again, this is the Simply Citrus bundle. So it has the stamp set dies, and then along with the dies comes the embossing folder that allow you, using this die, to emboss and cut at the same time. I've used the embossing folder to emboss some vellum cardstock, and then I am just cutting out some basic white with the stamped images on it for my card today. But I have some other samples that I have shared that emboss and cut. I just love this. I love anything citrusy. Okay, so now excuse me because I actually broke my wrist the other day. Luckily it's a pretty minor break, so I'm just splinted, but I am a little bit struggling a little bit here with cutting and scoring, and when I get to die cutting. So excuse the splint on my hand. Okay, so this piece of cardstock, it's garden green, and it is cut 4 1/4 by 9 1/2. And so we're going to score this. Make sure I score at 1 inch, 2 inches. I'm going to open up my trimmer. 7 1/2 inches and 8 1/2 inches. So we're going to need this again to do some more scoring, but let me grab my ruler. What you need to do is you want to take your ruler and turn it, and you're going to, using a pencil, you're going to mark, just put a little mark on each side at 3/4 of an inch on the 1-inch score line. Sorry, I've got it going the wrong way. So you're going to do it on the 1-inch score line, the edge, the 1-inch score line, the 8.5-inch score line, and the edge. So I'm just going to turn this. So I'm going to put just a little pencil mark. You are going to kind of cut this. And so if it still shows after you've done your cutting, you can actually just use an eraser to, I think I got it, there we go, to erase your marks. Now let's bring in. So what we're going to do from those, so from this 2-inch score line, actually, let's do it this way. You're going to now cut. Let's get my cutting blade up. So you're going to cut at from the put your edge of your paper at 3/4 of an inch, and you're going to cut to that 1-inch score line, and then you're going to take and turn your paper, your cardstock. Gosh, sorry, I'm a little gimpy here. Put the little the mark or that edge of your cut at on the 1-inch score line in the cutting track, and then you're going to cut from the 2-inch, the top of the 2-inch, down to that cut on the 1-inch score line. And if you don't get it perfectly, like I didn't, you can take your scissors and just kind of cut down to the mark. And so that piece cuts out. So we're going to do that again. So we're going to put the edge of this at 3/4. So we're going to line up this to 3/4, and we're going to cut from the edge of our paper to the 1-inch score line. Okay. And then we're going to take and we're going to turn and put this is now the 7.5-inch cut, and we're going to put that in the track, and then this 3/4-inch mark that we made in the track, and we're going to cut down. And you will feel when you've hit the edge of it. Again, if you don't quite get there, take your paper snips and just trim that out. And if it's not like this one where I cut, I just need to trim that off and make it a little neater. Okay, so these are going to fold in. So use your bone folder. So you're going to fold in on the 2-inch and the 7-inch, and then back out on the 1-inch and the 8.5-inch. So it's from the edges, it's a mountain valley fold. Now give those a really good burnish, because it will help your card base to fold or lay flat when it's finished. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's what your card base looks like. Again, the template will show you these. So again, it's 3/4 inch down. So cut straight across to the 3/4 inch and then up to the diagonal on each side. Okay, so let's bring in the rest of my supplies. Again, all of these measurements and supply lists are on my blog. Okay, so you're going to need a hinge. So let's find the hinge pieces. So these hinge pieces are cut 2.5 by 3.25, and they are scored. So you need 2 of them. So you're going to, these should be just like 1/8 of an inch, well actually 1/4 of an inch smaller than this front flap on your card base. So on the 2.5 inch side, you're going to score this at 3/4 and 1 3/4. Let's see, let's get it going the right way. There we go. And you're going to repeat that on both of them. So you end up with 2 score lines, 3/4 and 1 3/4. So there is, like I said, there is a little bit of cutting and scoring to these. Now that's it for the cutting and scoring. All right, so this is the hinge. So what we want to do is, if I bring my card back in, this is the piece that holds the 2 panels together. So we're going to fold, and we're going to fold this in a mountain valley configuration. Again, burnish it really well. Just helps it to lay flat. So both of these pieces are going to be in, it kind of forms a Z if I take my hands away like that. That's kind of what it's going to look like. So we'll do this one as well. And then this one folds in. Oops. Okay, so we've got our two hinges. And then these pieces now, oops, I did that wrong. Oops, no, there we go. Got it going the right way. Okay, so these pieces now adhere to these outside flaps. And so we're going to put, so they adhere to the edge of our card base on the two outside flaps. You can use tear and tape adhesive, or you can use, I'm going to use liquid glue. It just helps me wiggle my paper around a little bit. Let's get it going the right way. I just have this feeling. There we go. So this extends the card outward. If you think about that, oh, I left my lid off. So there we go. So this kind of just extends it outward. So I'm just going to put it on and kind of align it with the left edge right in the middle against the edge. And you got about 1/8 of an inch or so top and bottom. And just press that into place until it sticks. And now you've got our card base is now extended out. And we're going to do the same here. We're going to extend it outwards. So if you think about that, you get it going the right way. I think when I made this card the first time, I actually adhered them the wrong way. So note to self. Okay, again, aligned with the left or the edge and kind of even top to bottom. There we go. I think I've got that going. You can move it around. It's because you've got a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, so we've extended our card base out, and when this folds in, it folds in even. So your card base, when it folds in on itself, is the size of a regular card. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Okay, so now we've got some panels. Got card base. So you need 2 sets of panels. The largest panel is cut. This is garden green again. And this is cut, let's see, 2 5/8 by 3 1/2. And then I've cut a piece of the garden green DSP. So this is the Regal's DSP. So I've just taken and cut a piece, and I'm using the striped side. You can use whatever, or if you've got some other designer series paper. I just wanted to make the fruit kind of the star of the show on the front of the card. So we're going to adhere the designer series paper to the front of these panels. Like that. Okay, so we'll glue these and just let them sit for a minute. So the other pieces, the other set of panels are smaller. And these are 2 1/8 by 3 1/8. Again, I've cut them out of garden green. Then I cut 2 pieces of vellum cardstock that are 2 inches by 3 inches, and I ran those through the embossing folder. And so now we're just going to take, and I'm going to use Stampin' Seal on these. You will find that at least I find, maybe it's just my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, you get quite a groove, and it can kind of cut the vellum a little bit. And so just be a little careful with it as you're pulling it out of the embossing folder. And I'm using Stampin' Seal, and I'm putting Stampin' Seal on where it's embossed, and you will find that that helps to hide the adhesive, because sometimes you will see the adhesive through the vellum cardstock, but because this is embossed and cloudy, it hides that vellum, or it hides this adhesive. One of the good things about this. Okay, so there we go. So we've got our vellum adhered. Now these, okay, so we've got our 2 sets of panels. Now these larger panels go and adhere to this middle flap. So this is going to hide where we've adhered the hinge. So I'm just going to take and put liquid glue on this hinge. And this panel will adhere. It's the same size as this piece, this flap. And so it just kind of push it right up to the edge, align it with the bottom, and then press it flat. And it looks like I've got some glue sticking out. So if you've got that, you can use an adhesive eraser if you have one. Or your embossing buddy actually will also take off, at least make the glue not sticky. Okay, so these larger panels fit on this flap that you adhered your hinge to. That will hide that hinge, that piece of the hinge cardstock. So again, tucked right up against the fold, the score line, and adhered to kind of top aligned with the top and bottom. Okay, so we've got our inside flap like that. Now the smaller flaps are going to adhere to this piece. And for some reason my flap is making me think I didn't quite get this right, but it's okay. Let's see where my measurements are. 3 1/4. Okay. So I think I will make sure that the measurements are correct on my blog, because I think I've cut my garden green slightly too small, but I'm okay with it on this one. I think it actually should have been, this garden green piece should have been 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 by 2 1/4, and then the vellum should have been 2 1/8 by 3 1/8, but that's okay. So I will make sure that the written instructions have the correct measurements in. So this piece will adhere on to this front flap like that. We're just going to hold that in place so it doesn't shift, and then we'll repeat that on this side. I just find that by putting the adhesive on the card base itself, I can kind of control where it goes so it doesn't show not too much above the top and bottom of the piece. There we go. Okay. All right, so now we've got our card and it opens up like kind of this double panel opening. So now we can start decorating it. So let's put this out of the way. Okay, I've got 2 pieces of basic white. So I've got a piece of basic white that is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And this is going to fit on the inside of, so this is going to be the inside of the card. And I'm going to stamp "Have a Zesty Birthday." Let's see if we can get this lined up straight. It's not looking very straight. I'm trying to use my grid lines. There we go. At least it's photopolymer and you can see through it. So I've got my sentiment, and then I cut a piece of the designer series paper. I had a scrap left over. So this is cut 1 inch by 5 1/4. It's different. I didn't have any of the stripe left, so I'm using the polka dot. Mix it up. So we're just going to adhere that with about 1/8 of an inch or so, maybe not quite 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch, showing of the basic white. And then this goes on the inside of our card. So this is where you will write your sentiment. My liquid glue is almost out. Not even tuck these under so that it makes it easier to adhere the inside of your card like that. Okay, now let's do some stamping of the fruit and cut it out. Okay, so a couple of things. These are photopolymer stamps. So this particular one, which is the outside kind of rind of the fruit, I find it moves around, and you can kind of get it shifting, like because it is quite thin. I find that if you take it and just kind of lay it down without moving it around, just lay it flat And then you can take your clear block and pick up the stamp. You can do the same with the one that is the inside of the fruit, although it's a little kind of more sturdy and therefore it doesn't kind of move around and shift and get out of alignment. Just a tip for putting so that you get your, it just helps with the, when you go to cut it out if it's aligned correctly to start with. So I'm using pumpkin pie for the rind. You can make this fruit in this Simply Citrus, any fruit you want. So you could make it a grapefruit, you could make it lemons, you could make it limes, but I've got mine as being using pumpkin pie, and then the inside of the fruit is going to be Daffodil Delight. So you just kind of turn this until you get these will align, especially if you've done used my tip for getting your stamps on the block. You will find this lines up much easier than if you don't do it. Oops. Okay, so I need this. We're going to stamp 3 of the little flowers that are all together. I'm going to cut those out. And then we're going to cut 2 sets. Is it 2 sets? No, 4 sets of the leaves. And we're going to stamp those in garden green. Hopefully I have enough room to do that. I may have to. Oh my goodness, I think I got enough. Okay. Close my ink. This is one of the hardest things with my hand, is closing the ink. Okay, so let me get my plates for my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So just do it here. Okay, so the cool thing about these dies is Stampin' Up! Has given us extra. So we can actually cut out, if we were going to use more than one of these flowers, there are 2 of the dies to cut these little flowers out, which is great. And then you've got the die that will cut the fruit. So you just kind of twist it around until you get it in position. And you can use a Post-it note or Post-it note tape or washi tape just to hold it in place so it doesn't wiggle and move around. And then hopefully I can also cut out the flowers. Always try and be efficient on how many times I have to run things through the embossing folder. So there are 2 sets of leaves as well. So I'm using Post-it note tape just to hold mine in place. And there's another leaf here. Don't know that I'm going to be able to use it. I'm going to have to come back and do it. I think I've got my stamping too close to some of the die cuts. Okay, so I've got my Stampin' Cut and Emboss just over here on the side. All right, so there's one of the pieces of fruit. So the fruit's all cut out. There we go. And we've got 3 of the flowers. There must be a flower still stuck. Yes, there is. Okay, 1 set of leaves. Save my Post-it note tape. Okay, so I'm done with that, and I'm done with that. So then we can cut out and take and move my leaves die. And then I can also use the other one. Oops. Losing a flower there. All right, so I'll have to do one more cut after this to get all the leaves. This is the last set of leaves. Okay. Another set of leaves and do the last cut on these leaves. And we will be set to decorate the card. Okay, there we go. Save my pieces of Post-it note tape. And always reuse those. There we go. All right. My dies back out of the way so I don't lose those. Okay, so what we're going to do now is decorate the front of the card. And what I did on this card that I made, on one side I just decorated with 2 pieces of fruit, 2 leaves, and a flower. And on this side I actually put some linen thread behind it. So let's start with that. Let's see how this goes for me with my hand. So this is just the regular linen thread. There we go. I had to get a new one. I'd run out. I believe I'd run out of linen thread. Okay, so normally I wrap it around my left hand, but I just take and wrap this around about 2 or 3 times and then pull it off. Normally I have got this cut since I'm one-handed here. Okay, so pull it off and then just take and pinch it together to make it just kind of a blob, I don't know if that's right. And we're just going to use some Stampin' Seal and just kind of put that down and spread it out if you want. But I just kind of put that down so that it is just kind of there. And then I will put my fruit over top of it. Okay. So we're going to take and use dimensionals on our fruit. So I can get all the dimensionals put on. I might have to use mini dimensionals on the, I think the mini dimensionals on the flowers probably is best. Okay, so there's that. So on this side, we're going to put this half a piece right there. And then we'll put, this is kind of a lemon, but I've got it stamped in pumpkin pie. If you wanted to stamp them kind of more obvious or more actual colors, you probably will have to stamp a separate one in Daffodil Delight. All right, and so then we'll take and just put that there. Now I'm going to use glue dots for the leaves because I can just put a glue dot on the leaf and then tuck it in behind. So we'll just put one and tuck it in behind there. And there's a glue dot. This is a great way if you worry about losing your die cut pieces, just take and put them on your roll of glue dots if that's what you're using, and it just holds them in place. I always find it much easier to do that. All right, so let's just tuck that underneath there like that. And now I've got 3 flowers, and I'm going to use mini dimensionals to put these flowers on. Could probably use a full-size one on the largest one, but since I'm using you definitely need a mini for the small flowers. Okay. So we're just going to take and put one of those there, and then we'll put these 2. Let's put one there and one there. Okay, and then so the last thing for these, for the card, is to put some embellishments on. And I know I had my, oh, there they are. I have some brushed metallic dots. So I'm going to use the gold ones. I think I've got enough. Yes, I do.
So we'll use one large on this. I'm using it from the centers of the flowers. So we use a large one on the large flower and then 2 small ones on the 2 small flowers. There. Okay, let's get everything out of the way so that you can see. So there's the card. Again, I will make sure that the right measurement for this front panel, you can't actually even see that it's slightly smaller, but I will make sure that the right measurement is in the instructions on my blog if you want them. So like I said, this one should have been slightly bigger, but you can't actually see that. So, all right, there's the card. And if somebody's got a name for it, let me know what you think it is. I'm calling it the accordion fold window card. Again, I think there's probably a different name for it. I tend to make up my own. Hope you enjoyed that. If you have questions, let me know. If you're watching this and haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. That way you'll get notified when I post videos or when I go live, which I do on a regular basis. Also, if you're over on my blog, check it out, and you can subscribe to my newsletter if you're interested in that. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day. Happy stamping. Bye.